What's up, hip hoppers? Welcome into episode 4 of Rap Juice Radio. I'm your host, Canvas Murakami, editor in chief of Rap Juice. And what do we have today? Well, Sean Corleone, Jay-Z on Charlamagne the God. I don't know. What's going on, guys? What's going on? Well, quite the ongoing fiasco. Pretty much beef that I believe started between DJ Akademiks and Charlamagne the God has spilled over. Um, we got Jay-Z involved, Rock Nation involved, and it's now at a tipping point. We've got none other than legendary New York DJ, radio host DJ Funk Flex getting involved. I haven't heard from Funk Flex all year long, but he's due to go viral every once in a while, and boy, did he go viral. All right, we're going to get into it and get some context. Let's check out what Funk Master Flex has to say.
I mean, you rode his corn knob every chance you got, bro. Every chance you got. You rode his pepper and you got his mayonnaise all over your face. Every chance you got. You know why? Because you was looking for validation from a New York cat. You wanted validation. And what you did not realize, Charlamagne, is that boy Jay-Z right there, you ain't smarter than him. He's hustler from Brooklyn. You ain't never gonna outsmart him.
Ever.
And I know, Charlamagne, you was at your dinner table. Jay-Z really likes me. He likes my opinion. You was wearing that dirty Rock Nation hat I don't know how many days in a row. I mean...
All right. Well, that is DJ Funk Flex going in on Charlamagne the God over allegedly Jay-Z might be, might have major equity in the Charlamagne the God brand, and kind of has been quite the, exposure to a hidden agenda. For some more context, let's hear Akademiks talk about it.
Jana Fleshman, Angela Rye, Alicia Keys, and that's not my motherfucking media goat, Leonard McKelvey, aka Charlamagne, not under the Rock Nation banner. No!
Funk Flex and Charlamagne the God.
All right. So, yeah. Basically, Charlamagne the God has been poking at DJ Akademiks time and time recently, over I believe is something political. And pretty much DJ Akademiks dug a little bit into Charlamagne and some, documents or whatnot came out, and apparently much to Charlamagne's rejection of admission, apparently he is under Rock Nation management. All right, if you do not know who Charlamagne the God is, or don't you may know who he is, but may not understand why he's being involved with Jay-Z and whatnot. Well, Charlamagne the God is pretty big, but those of you who don't know, he really started in the hip-hop community. So just going to give you an overview here that would explain. Larry McKelvey, known professionally as Charlamagne the God, or simply Charlamagne, is an American radio host and television presenter. He is a co-host of the nationally syndicated radio show The Breakfast Club, along with DJ Envy, with whom he was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in 2020 for their work on the show. He also hosted the late night talk show Hell of a Week with Charlamagne the God, on Comedy Central. All right. Does continue, but I digress. We'll stop there. Um, and I was actually reading from his wiki there. My apologies. Um, but in any case, Charlemagne the God pretty much came to fame, or at least peaked. I don't want disrespect to come up, but peaked and is most known for being a host of the Breakfast Club, which is a hip hop radio station, a hip hop radio show on Power 105, the hip hop radio station. All right. Um, you know, why did I want to cover this? You know, beef or dispute or scandal. Really, to bring some education to it, I actually want to focus on something that I highlighted in the first episode of Rap Juice Radio. What is hip hop? Right? If you have not checked that episode out, highly recommend going back. I break down everything of what it means when it comes to hip hop. What is, how do you define hip hop? What does hip hop consist of? And in that episode, I broke down hip hop culture, and I led off with the media, right? Um, really starting off by saying that you have to know hip hop originated in New York City, right? And why was that important? Well, the first thing I led off with was think about the impact of New York media and management, hip hop media, hip hop management, and hip hop financiers. They are all, pretty much headquartered in New York historically. And the Breakfast Club was one of my prime examples of how that's still relevant to this day. Being that they are arguably the number one hip hop radio show and has been for some time, right? So they have major influence, on hip hop culture for I'd say the last 2 decades. Um, and here we go, finding out, you know, Charlemagne the God is actually, you know, paid for and sponsored by none other than, arguably the GOAT of hip hop himself, Jay-Z, Sean Carter, right? And that's quite the news. Um, that carries a ton of weight. So pretty much people have been, you know, going back into the archives, going back in looking at previous interviews that Charlemagne and the Breakfast Club has had with certain guests that have been under Rock Nation management, or people who very well known. Jay-Z, um, you know, is kind of no longer on decent terms with, right? A la Dame Dash, right? And I gotta be honest, I've seen a couple of clips and looking at them, yeah, it does look suspicious. Definitely looks like there was an agenda going into these interviews, and you know, now we find out why, right? So you would think, oh, Breakfast Club was Revolt TV, Revolt Media, you know, now we got to open that can of worms. Lord knows what influence Diddy had on, the Breakfast Club show. But, much to everybody's surprise, this week we find out, oh, Jay-Z actually, owns Charlemagne the God. Lord knows to what extent, and Lord knows since when. So, whether it's pushing certain artists that may have just been signed to Rock Nation, Meg Thee Stallion, J. Cole, or tearing down people that Jay-Z may consider competition, Kanye West, Drake, and people that he may just have bad blood with, Dame Dash, right? You know, it just goes to show you that, you know, hip hop has grown tremendously to the point of it's now, you know, a conglomerate, a phenomena, a worldwide phenomenon, you know, multi-billion dollar business. And, you know, don't ever let anybody fool you otherwise, right? We've got Jay-Z here acting like the Godfather. Um, Very controversial. I respect it myself. You know, huge fan of the Godfather, and you know, just a huge fan of you know, free market capitalism, and you know, the good and the bad that that comes with. So, you know, um, you could argue it's morally wrong what Jay Z may have done. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about it. But for me, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it is what it is. Money talks and power walks, right? So, just goes to show you, just wanted to spend a little bit of time um, proving to you guys how important, um, you know, understanding hip hop culture and where it comes from, how important that is. It still affects us to this very day. If Charlemagne the God, you heard Funk Flex kind of alluding to Charlemagne the God, was born in the Carolinas, born and raised, but, you know, made the move to New York to, you know, get going and find his way. And he sure did. But you got to ask yourself, would he have been able to do that if he was, you know, still in South Carolina? Would he be a Hall of Fame radio show host? Right? Highly doubt it. Right? Would he have, you know, been on Jay-Z's radar? Right? Would he be signed to iHeartMedia? Highly doubt it. So, you know, just if you're an artist, hip hop artist in particular, you know, just dive into the culture, dive into the history, be proud of it, and navigate through it. Right. Um, you know, it's just goes to show you, if you know, if you're in New York, that's why a lot of rap artists have an easier breakthrough in New York. Right. A lot of the hottest rappers throughout the years, historically and even currently, you know, had great runs and great relationships with the media, big pushes behind them by being in the midst of New York culture and having those connects, knowing DJ Funk Flex, knowing Charlemagne, knowing DJ Envy, DJ Clue, right? Um, Being signed to Def Jam, right? Mass Appeal with Nas. All these things go a long way, right? When there's Young M.A., Dave East, you know, Griselda, you know, a lot of new cats even to this day. New York City just, you know, is a great place to, you know, consider and understand the power when it comes to being a hip hop artist and just a hip hop fan, you know. So, quite the story. Just kind of want to hop in and break all that down. You know, there's a lot more to it. You know, apparently Charlemagne, you know, and Jay-Z, this like I mentioned earlier, this is really stems from a political thing. Allegedly the ties go as deep as the Democratic Party itself, you know, and you think you know, definitely raises an eyebrow. You think back to the Kamala Harris you know, presidential campaign. um I remember none other than Beyonce herself, you know, uh, coming out to Houston rally or something like that, was supposed to perform, but didn't necessarily happen. Meg The Stallion performed at a rally. I believe she's still a Rock Nation artist, right? You go back to Jay-Z performing for Hillary Clinton on her campaign, right? Lord knows this probably could go back as far as Barack Obama with his campaign. Would make sense. Maybe that's where Jay-Z first formed political ties, behind the scenes. So a lot of money, a lot of financing going on. Um, and I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of how deep this rabbit hole gets. As far as apparently Akademiks and Charlamagne are going to sit down and get to talk about it, see what's real, see what's not. But hip hop has gotten this big, guys. We're officially global, but even on the nationwide stage, we're getting involved in politics, getting involved in nationally syndicated radio. And one thing I forgot to mention is also is getting into a whole, which is still politics, but I would say, I guess, more citywide politics. There's a casino, forget which casino company, but one of the big casinos is prospected to build a casino in the middle of Times Square. And apparently Jay-Z is one of the people behind the operation, as far as the financing is going. And Charlamagne the God's name may be tied to it. So if you're interested in the whole story, go check out Funk Flex. Just pop it in on YouTube or social media, Funk Flex, Charlamagne or Jay-Z. And there's a whole thing. A little bit too messy for me to cover it from head to toe, but I just wanted to give you guys some of the education piece on what that means to the culture and the state of hip hop, right? So that's pretty much all I got for today, guys. Getting a little dark, and I don't have my full setup as far as lighting goes, and my internet was giving me some trouble. So thanks for sticking around. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, I'll pop this real quick. Here's like that. Yep. Canvas Murakami, editor-in-chief of Rap Juice. I'll see y'all next time. Subscribe for the culture, guys. Peace.